Good evening. So my name is, of course, Anthony Essien, and so we're to our second week of the exercise technique, if you will. So we're going to do upper body, and so for our first exercise, we're going to do the seated shoulder press. And one of the things that we're looking for in the starting position is that you're in a it's called a 5-point body contact position. And if you happen to be working out at home like we are this evening, so there's no resting position for the head, but I do have my shoulders in contact with the chair, my glutes are in contact with the chair, my left foot's in contact with the ground, and also my right foot is in contact with the ground. And so I want to make sure that I'm seated upright, with my contact points on the chair. And so for the starting position, once again, like last week, we don't have a barbell, but do have exercise bands. And so then the starting position is going to be overhead. It's important that our wrists are tight, if you will, and then as we lower down, as we flex our elbows, we're going to make sure that our neck is slightly extended, allowing the bar, if we were to have a bar, the bar to pass in front of our face without hitting our face, and we'll lower down to the clavicle, and or the anterior deltoids, and then we will, at that point, we will extend our elbows back up. And so we need to control the weight both going up and going down, and our forearms need to stay parallel to each other as we go through the movement. And in the entirety of the movement, we are keeping our point of contact with the chair or the bench. Okay, so once again, we're doing the seated shoulder press. This time we're just getting a lateral view. And so you can see my point of contacts. Like I said, we don't have the 5 points of contact, but we do have 4. So my starting position is with my hands overhead. And as I flex my elbows, I'm going to extend my neck slightly so that the bar can pass in front. As I work my way down to my clavicle and the anterior deltoid. And then once again, I'm keeping my torso in the same position throughout the entirety of the range of motion. So it looks like this. One of the things that we're looking for is that our back stays in contact with the chair and the back support, and that our glutes and both of our feet stay grounded on the ground. And we are back. So then I have my client here once again. This is my wife, Allison. So eager to help this evening. And so, we're starting with the anterior view of the seated shoulder press. And what we're looking for here is we have the 5 points of contact. So we have our left foot's on the ground, right foot's on the ground. We have her glutes, so she's seated, not raised. We see her shoulders are pressed against the back. So she has 4 of the 5 points of contact ready to go. So then we're going to start with hands above. And so right here, what we're looking for is we're looking for a stiff wrist. And, we're looking for our forearms to be parallel to each other. And then as she starts the movement, when she lowers her down, she's going to extend her neck so that the bar can pass down in front, touching down at the clavicle and the anterior deltoids. So we're looking for control downward and upwards. Very nice. The slight extension of that, yes. While keeping the point of contact the entire time throughout the entirety of the movement. Okay, once again, we're back with the seated shoulder press, and now we're on the lateral view. And the good part about this view is it's going to allow us the opportunity to see if her back and her glutes are staying in contact with the seat. It's part of the 5 points of body contact that we're looking for. Okay, go ahead, begin. So we need a slight extension so that, you know, if we had a barbell, we want to be passing in front of our face, and we're talking about down to the clavicle and anterior deltoids, keeping the forearms parallel to each other throughout the entirety of the movement. Do one more rep, please. That's very nice there. Okay, so we're back. So like we talked about previously, you know, we have these resistance bands, and you know, we're pretty fortunate on the bands that we have that you can add and subtract the resistance, i.e. weight. So we've added an extra band to it, so there's more resistance to this. So this should make it tougher to perform the movement, if you will. It's going to require more force to move the bands into the position that we're wanting them to move into. Okay, so once again, we're looking for the 5 points of body contact. Left foot's on the ground, right foot's on the ground. We have our glutes sitting there nicely. You know, our back is pressed against the back of the chair. Our torso is nice and erect and upright. And so now we can begin the movement. Okay, our forearms staying parallel to the ground, to each other, I'm sorry. Stiff wrist, slight extension of the neck to allow for the bar to pass to the front. And we're going a little bit slower on the way down, controlling the weight. So we want to control the weight while we're going upwards and downwards. Thank you. Okay, so here we are with the lateral view for the seated shoulder press. And you know, once again, this gives us the opportunity to see our points of contact. So we have our feet on the ground, we have our glutes on the ground, and as you can see, shoulder blades are pressed against the back, the chair here. So then we're going to go ahead and do our movement. So our starting position is overhead, forearms parallel. And as we work down, and it's very important that in the eccentric phase that we control our weight as we're coming down, and we're not just letting the weight fall down. One more repetition. And that's a very nice extension of the head to allow the bar to come, to pass by the face without contacting it on its way down to the clavicle and then the anterior deltoids. Thank you. Now we're on to the biceps curls. And so when the things that we're looking for when we're doing the biceps curls, you know, we want a closed supinated grip. So we want our feet essentially shoulder width apart. Our knees are going to be slightly flexed, you know, for some stability. You know, our arms start down by our side, and your arms should be in a position to where they're actually touching your side. And so then from there, we're going to flex at our elbows, working our way up to right in front of our anterior deltoid. And so once again, it's important that we control the weight in the eccentric phase so that we're not just letting the weight drop. And our torso staying nice and erect, you know, as we go through the entirety of the movement, and my knees are slightly flexed. Okay, so once again, we're talking about doing the biceps curl. So we have the anterior view. Remember what we're looking for? We're looking for slightly flexed knees. Our arms are to our sides. And we have a closed supinated grip, which for the layperson, that means your palms are facing forward or anteriorly. And our movement is going to be at the elbow with our upper arms staying still, like throughout the movement. So, and another thing we're looking for is we're looking for controlling the weight in concentric and eccentric. So we're not going to jerk the weight up, and we're also not going to let the weight just fall down. Okay, go ahead. Okay, nice and rhythmic there. Just get a little bit more flexing the knees slightly for stability. And that's very nice. Okay, so now we have the lateral view, and once again, we're looking for slightly flexed knees, our torso nice and erect, upper arm being still as we go through the movement, and controlled concentrically and eccentrically. Okay, very nice control of the weight. Good job, Allison. Okay, so we added additional resistance, and then the important thing is as you start increasing in weight, is that our posture and our mechanics and our technique stay sound, so that we don't end up injuring ourselves because we're starting to move a lot more weight. So technique becomes really, really important as we go up in weight. So look for the flexed knees. Very nice control. Concentric control, eccentric control. You know, up to the anterior deltoids. Very nice, no swaying of the back. Posture is really good. So we're going to go ahead and just turn to the lateral view. Just going to keep it rolling. Okay, once again, we're looking for, make sure we keep our wrists nice and stiff. You know, upper arm is not moving whatsoever. So you get a little more bend in the knees there, a little slight flexion. You know, control concentrically and eccentrically. One more rep. That's a nice control there. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the one-arm dumbbell row. So in the one-arm dumbbell row, so we're going to start with our feet are going to be shoulder width apart. Our knees are going to be slightly flexed. One of the things we're looking for too is, you know, when we get in position, we need to like flex our hips so that our torso is slightly above parallel to the floor. So we have a closed neutral grip. We want to have a neutral spine in this. And when we go through the movement, you know, as we raise the weight up, we're raising the weight up right beside, you know, our torso. You know, and then the repetition ends as we fully extend it back down towards the ground. And so here's what it looks like. So my feet, shoulder width apart. You know, I have my opposite hand here for support, and I have my spine in a neutral position, and I have a slight flexion at the hip so that my torso is slightly above, parallel to the ground. And so then from there, as I have full extension at the elbow with the weight hanging here, and from there I'm going to go up to my torso, and then make sure I'm controlling the weight as I go back down. You know, we don't want to jerk the weight up and then just let it drop down. You know, we went at full range of motion. We have that concentrically and eccentrically. So up to the side, return to starting position, the whole time keeping a neutral spine. Okay, so we have the anterior view of the one-arm dumbbell row. And so Allison's going to start with the movement. So we have a neutral spine. Let's get there, get in the way. Going to make sure, keep our elbow in. Just think about almost as if you're trying to press your elbow against your side as you're going upwards. Back down to a full position with a full extension of the elbow. Okay, so now we have our lateral view, and cross over the camera real quick here. Yeah, so we're gonna look like almost like squeezing your elbow to your side as you go. You can see here our back is slightly above parallel to the ground, so we have our neutral spine. So that's a go load. So we've increased the weight with regards to the dumbbell row, and we mentioned earlier about proper body positioning and technique, which is always important, but even more so when you increase the weight. And this movement, like most movements, but this movement, it's really important because the position that our body is in. You know, if we get real heavy, so the guys that are trying to gain power, you know, when you're in that position, if you jerk the weight either going up or down and your spine's not in a neutral position, like you can really do some damage to your back. So it's very, very important that our body positioning and technique are spot on. With all movements, but you know, I really like it in this one. Okay, so we're gonna get in position here. Good starting position, knees flex. Pinching that elbow, keep those elbows as close to your side as possible. Bringing the weight all the way up to your side. Almost like if you're starting a lawnmower. Okay, so then we're back here with the lateral view. Like once again, so we see the slight flex in our knees. We see the back slightly above parallel. So to keep that elbow as tight as possible. Also, you squeeze it by your side as you go up.